Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Habayim to our Kollel once again. We're learning the Hilchot Shabbat. This is Shi'ur number 6 in the series Hilchot Shabbat. We're learning in the Sefer Kitzur Hilchot Shabbat. The last Shi'ur we spoke about Al Meh Mekadshim, on what types of things you can make the Kiddush on. And today we're starting in Seif Gimel, Shi'ur Shtiyah. That's the laws of the amount of the drinking of the wine for the Kiddush. How much wine must be drank for the Kiddush and how much has to be held in the cup, and so on and so forth. So we'll start. Tzarich lishtod mikos shel Kiddush shi'ur melo lugmav. A person must drink from the cup of Kiddush in order to be Yotzei, to fulfill the obligation of the Kiddush. We must drink at least a malo lugmav, literally that is translated as a cheekful. And in order to know how much is a cheekful, so further the rabbis have figured this out to be right around 1.7 ounces. So that's the amount that a person has to drink. Shukmo rov revi'is. That's like the rov of the shi'ur called the revi'it. Yesh lishtoto kmo b'bat achat haynu maher shein lishhot zman harbe b'shtiyat yain hakiddush. So it also, furthermore, this 1.7 ounces that a person must drink in order to fulfill the obligation of kiddush has to be drank all in one shot. Or as if all in one shot, one or two drinks, and haynu maher, meaning to drink it down quickly. She'ein lishhot zman harbe b'shtiyat yain kiddush. She'im shoteh ma'at ma'at al yidei hafsakot. What happens if he takes a sip and then puts it down and takes another sip later, and then until he gets to the shiur, it's no good. Lo tiyena az mitztarefet hashtiyot l'shiur melo lugmav. Those sips that he took will not connect together to the shiur, to the amount that's of the required amount to drink the kiddush. And then furthermore, again, nobody will be yotzei, nobody fulfills their obligation because the person making the kiddush did not drink the amount of kiddush in the right time that the amount has to be drank. V'im kashe alav lishtod kol hashiur. So what if it's difficult? It's difficult for him to drink that amount of wine or grape juice even in one shot, or through like a couple of drinks, drink it down. So then he can delegate it to someone else at the table. Anyone else at the table can drink that amount of wine for him, and then everybody else will be yotzei as well. What if he has no other person there? So either he doesn't have wine, or he doesn't have grape juice, or it's hard for him to drink the wine or grape juice, and there's nobody else at the table that can drink it for him. So in this case, you would have to make In this case, you would have to make the kiddush on bread, as we said at the last shiur, that in those cases a person can make kiddush on bread, and we'll see soon. This is talking about the nighttime su'udah of Shabbat b'layla. And then, in that case, there's no wine or grape juice. There's no one else to drink the wine or grape juice. Taking a little sip is not enough. You have to drink a full, like a 1.7 ounces down in one shot. And he's not able to do any of this. So in that case, he would make the kiddush on bread. Instead of saying the Brei Pri Hagafen, he would say Hamotzi Lechem Min Haaretz, like we said at the last shiur. She'ein yotzim b'kiddush, she'ein shotim hashiur k'shel melo lugmav. That's the whole problem, is that you're not yotzei the kiddush. If a person does not fulfill his obligation of making the kiddush without drinking down this amount that we said is a cheekful or 1.7 ounces. What about everybody else that's sitting at the table? Do they also have to drink from the cup of the kiddush? So he says, mitzvah minam muvchar shekulam yitamu ma'at bimenu. So he says, even though they're not chayav, nobody else at the table has to taste from the kiddush. Only the person making the kiddush has to drink the amount of kiddush. Nobody else has to taste from the kiddush. But still, we have a special mitzvah, as we see at the Shabbos tables, we see that the Kiddush is passed around and everybody takes a sip. This is Chibuv mitzvah. This shows our love of the mitzvah of the Kiddush. And it's a special mitzvah that everybody at the table has to also take a little taste from the wine of the Kiddush. Let's go over this Seif Gimel. So we said that there is a required amount for the Kiddush that has to be drank. And that required amount is called Milo Lugmav, the amount that takes to fill a cheekful, like a mouthful or a cheekful. We said this is about a rov revi'it, the majority of the shiur of amount called revi'it, and the rabbis measured it out that this is approximately 1.7 ounces. If someone does not drink that amount, for example, he just takes a sip, puts down the cup, then nobody else is yotzei the kiddush. And by the way, this is one of the things that I've seen by visiting from when I was living in New York, and I would go and visit different places, Connecticut, different places, and you would see. I could go to a big Beit Knesset, and there's a rabbi like a modern rabbi. He's after davening. After the shacharit on Shabbat, it was a Yom Tov, Simchat Torah. I remember there was thousands of people there, at least 1,000 people. It was a big Beit Knesset, and they were all being yotzei, all to fulfill their obligation from the rabbi's kiddush. And in order to make things quickly, right after davening, the rabbi would take the cup of wine and he would make the kiddush for everybody that was there. And I was very saddened to see that this rabbi took a sip of the wine after making the kiddush. Apparently, he's one of the people that don't like to drink a lot of or grape juice, and he took a small sip after making kiddush for these 1,000 people, and then he put it down. And so I said to myself, that's a very disappointing thing to see, because nobody in that case is yotzei the kiddush. Nobody fulfilled their obligation, and everybody's going now to eat the meal. And we'll see, you're not allowed to eat the meal before making kiddush. And in that case, nobody was yotzei the kiddush. And I had to find a nice way to inform the rabbi in that case that he needs to drink 1.7 ounces from the cup in order to fulfill the obligation, his own obligation, and those of the listeners for their obligation of kiddush. We said it has to be drank bevat achat. That means it has to be drank quickly. You drink it down to 1.7 ounces. It's not such a large amount. A cheekful, you drink it quickly. You don't sit down and take and spread it out between different sips, because those different sips will not combine to the amount. The amount has to be drank all in one time, in one or two drinks. We said that the Mekadesh can delegate the drinking of the required amount to someone else at the table if he can't drink the wine, or it's difficult for him, wine or grape juice, so he can take a sip. He made the brei pri hagafen, he would just take a small sip, a taste of it, and then he could give it to somebody else at the table. They would drink the 1.7 ounces, and then everybody's fine. Everybody's is yotzei their obligation. If he has nobody there to drink it, we said there's nobody at the table, there's nobody around to help him to drink the required amount. So in that case, he would make the kiddush on bread. Because, like we said, nobody's yotzei the kiddush if the mekadesh doesn't drink the required amount. So there's no way around it, and then he would have to make in that case kiddush on bread. We said the people at the table, even though there's no chiyuv, there's no obligation for them to drink or taste from the wine of the kiddush. Nevertheless, they have a special mitzvah that everybody should taste from the wine of the kiddush. The next seif, Daled. Seif Daled is talking about the hakos. This is the laws of the kiddush cup. The cup itself has several laws that we need to be aware of. Av she'ein mitzvah lishtot yoter mimlo nugmav, mikol makom tzrichim lekadesh al revi'it yain. Even though, like we said, the obligation is he only has to drink a small amount, a cheekful, 1.7 ounces, but still the cup has to hold much more than that. The cup has to hold at least a revi'it. A revi'it, the rabbis have got this down to 3.8 ounces. And so the cup has to hold 3.8 ounces, and then you have to drink the 1.7 ounces from the cup. נוהגים שקודם הקידוש שוטפים הכוס במים. So there's a halacha or a minhag. The custom is that even if the cup is clean, that we should rinse the cup with water before making the kiddush. And I'll tell a short story about this in the when we go over this halacha as well. In כבר שתו פעם אחת מן היין שבכוס, שוב אסור לקדש עליו כמו שהוא. This is the law of yain pagum, which we're going to learn. In כבר שתו פעם אחת מן היין שבכוס. So somebody already drank from the wine that's in a cup. There's wine in a cup, and someone drank from that cup already. So the remnants, what's remaining in the wine in the cup, can I make kiddush on the remaining wine in the cup? So he says, Shuv asur lekadesh alav kamo shehu v'nikra b'shem yain pagum. So this is yain pagum. Yain pagum means wine. And that means, how is it blemished? Because someone already made a bracha from it. Someone already drank from that wine in the cup. So since someone already drank from it, so this is the leftovers of the wine in the cup. The leftovers wine is considered yain pagum. It's called a blemished wine. So what if somebody made kiddush on a large cup, and then you drank the small amount? There's a lot of wine still remaining in the cup. So you have a lot of wine left over in the cup. A person makes kiddush on a large cup of wine, and he drinks the amount that you have to drink, like we said. Now he has a lot of wine left in the cup. Someone else wants to make kiddush. I'll make kiddush. Someone else wants to make kiddush on that wine. So they'll take the wine that's left in the cup, and they'll pour it into a smaller cup, and now they can make kiddush. They'll have a full cup of wine. We know the cup has to be full to the top. So here he fills the smaller cup to the top with this wine that's already yain pagum, which has already been used for kiddush one time. So he's not allowed to do this, because that wine had already become pagum. So he says here, so how do you fix the wine? I want to make kiddush on this wine that's left in the cup. There's a lot of wine left in this large cup. I want to make kiddush on it. How do I fix that wine? That it should not be yain pagum. So he says here, mosifim alav me'at yain o mayim u'machzirin oto letoch bakbuk sheyesh bo od yain. So very simple. You just add a little bit more wine from a fresh bottle or water. You can add just a few drops of water or a few drops of wine into that cup. And you put that cup, now you pour the remaining wine, into a bottle that has some wine still in it. Now everything in the bottle is like brand new again. It's no longer pagum, and it can be used for the kiddush. יש נוהגים לשייר מעט יין מן הקידוש הלילה לתוך כוס של הבדלה. לא יניח היין מגולה זמן הרבה, שאז חל עליו שם של יין מגולה, שאין מקדשים עליו. So it says here, final halacha in this seif, that a person should not leave once you pour the wine for kiddush. Let's say a person poured the wine, and now he decides, there's more people coming, so he's going to wait for the guests. In the meantime, the wine is staying uncovered. So he says you shouldn't leave the wine uncovered in a cup for a long period of time, because in that case, that wine you would not be allowed to make kiddush on that wine, on the uncovered wine. Summarizing this seif of the kos. So we said even though one only has to drink a malo lugmav, that's a cheekful, the 1.7 ounces, nevertheless the cup for the kos kiddush must be able to hold at least a revi'it of wine, which is approximately 3.8 ounces. So the cup has to hold 3.8 ounces, and the person has to drink 1.7 ounces. There's a custom to wash out the kos before using it for kiddush, even though it's clean. So just a personal story. I heard when I learned this halakha at first, I heard the Rav was saying the drasha to the people, and he was telling everybody this minhag. There's a custom to wash out the cup before making the kiddush. So it's not talking about a dirty cup. A dirty cup, a cup that's used for wine, that's obviously has to be used. That's a kos pagum, a yain pagum. There's many halachot of kos shel bracha. It's called kos shel bracha, a cup of blessing. The cup of blessing, you can open up the Shulchan Aruch and you can learn. There are long detailed halachot in what has to go about the cup of blessing. So if it's dirty, if it has wine in there, anything in there, so then it has to be washed out. But what if you took it out of the cupboard? You took it just out of the closet now, and it's perfectly clean, spotless cup. So then the rabbi told me, when he told the audience, he was saying, then you have al pi Kabbalah. So then, according to the Kabbalah, according to the deeper wisdom, there you still would wash out the cup, even though it came from the cupboard or the closet. So it just so happened that shortly after that, literally like 2 or 3 weeks later, I took out the cup from the closet. I understood that you don't have to wash it if it's clean, but it's al pi Kabbalah. There's an inyan. There's a special inyan to wash it even if it's clean. And I said, I'm in a little rush here. I take it out of the closet. I took out the cup. It was already perfectly clean from the cupboard. And I put it on the table. I was about to pour the wine into it, and lo and behold, there was a spider in the cup. There was a spider in my kos kiddush. So I said, that's it. This was what the rabbi said. He said, so this was like a spider, like a al pi Kabbalah. They sent me a spider to remind me that there's this inyan, that this special law, that even if a cup is clean, that al pi Kabbalah you should still wash it out. We learned about yain pagum. That's a blemished wine. That's because someone else used it already for making the kiddush. We said the remaining wine in the cup cannot be poured into a smaller cup and used for the kiddush. So we said that there's a way to fix it, though. You can fix the yain pagum. You can fix the blemished wine that's leftover wine by just adding in some wine or water into the wine or grape juice, whatever it is, and then pour it back into a bottle that has some wine or grape juice in it. And then everything in the bottle can be used for kiddush. And no longer be pagum. Excuse me. We said also that the cup should not be left uncovered for a long period of time, because then it becomes yain migulet. She'ein mikadshim alav, that yain migulet, we do not make kiddush on that wine. The next seif hey. Seif hey is kiddush b'makom seuda. These are laws of making kiddush at the same place that you were eating your meal. The kiddush has to be made at the same place that you're eating your meal. Ein kiddush ela b'makom seuda. That's the phrase. The phrase, if you want to remember the phrase, that when it's time to make kiddush, and there are people going all over the place and going different places, we should say, Ein kiddush ela b'makom seuda. You can only make kiddush at the place you're going to be eating. V'hainu she'ein yotzim b'kiddush im ein ochlim achar kiddush. And that's also to say that you're not yotzei the kiddush, we're not fulfill the obligation of kiddush if we don't eat immediately after the kiddush. And that eating that has to take place immediately after the kiddush has to be also at the same place that you made the kiddush. Also, this is very important. We're not yotzei, we not fulfill the obligation without fulfilling this law. A person should not get involved with other things after making kiddush and then eating the meal. And you can't make kiddush in one place and have in mind, I'm going to make kiddush over here at the Beit Knesset. I'm going to eat my meal at home. It doesn't work. You'd have to eat your meal and make the kiddush at the same place. ובשעת דוחק, כשצריכים לקדש במקום אחד, ואין יכולים לאכול שם רק במקום אחר. כגון אישה שאוכלת בבית ושמעת קידוש בסוכה, יש לעשות שאלה. So what happens if a person has a need? They have a need to hear kiddush in one place, but they will not be able to eat the meal in that same place. So this was like, for example, the example that he gives here is a woman that's hearing the kiddush in the sukkah. So in Chag Sukkot, everybody goes into the sukkah. We make the kiddush. In some places, for whatever reason, either there's not place in the sukkah, or it's very cold. Women are not obligated to eat in the sukkah. Period. So the woman says she's going to be eating the meal inside the house. But the kiddush is being made in the sukkah, so that's a problem. So in that case, he says you should ask a sheila. You should ask the rabbi and what to do in such cases. We said that if you don't have a meal with the kiddush, then there's no kiddush. It's not called a kiddush. The meal has to be immediately after the kiddush. So he asks, what type of meal are we talking about? How much does a person have to eat to be considered that he did his kiddush? That means if he does kiddush and he does not eat, that's not kiddush. He did not consider he made kiddush. He's not fulfilled his obligation of kiddush. So how much does a person have to eat in order to be that he fulfilled his obligation of kiddush? So he says, O ba'achilat kezayit pat, so you need, the shear is a kezayit. That means it's an olive amount, which is in the olden day olives, which is like about the size of our eggs. And the rabbis again here, kezayit, they have measured it to right around 30 grams of bread or 30 grams of cake, mizonot. So this is like a slice of bread, a piece of cake, so on and so forth. And without, this is the amount that you would have to have in the kiddush. So if they're making the kiddush at the Beit Knesset, a person should immediately after the kiddush, you should go and not start with the cucumbers and the tuna, gefilte fish, whatever it is. Those things don't count towards this meal. He should go to the crackers and go to the cakes and go to the mizonot first, and make sure he has plenty of mizonot, enough crackers or enough cake that he's going to get to a kezayit of the like we said, 30 grams. Is the for a kezayit, it's approximate. These measurements are all approximate. There's different ways to measure them. We're using the example of 30 grams. So you have to have that with your kiddush at Beit Knesset. You can't just go and eat the shahakol and eat the fish and eat the salads and just have a cracker or two. It won't work. You will not be yotzei the kiddush. No, you will not fulfill your obligation of kiddush like that. Rather, you have to go to the mizonot and first make sure you have a kezayit of mizonot, so that you fulfill your obligation of kiddush, and then you can eat anything else that's at the kiddush as well, all the other goodies. Gam b'shtiyat revi'it yayin yicholim latzeit. So there's another interesting halacha not a lot of people know about. So a person's not in the mood for cake. So I want to make kiddush. It's after Beit Knesset on Shabbat. I want to hear the kiddush. I want to make the kiddush, but I don't have any. I'm not hungry yet for cake or for bread or cake. So he says here, there's an interesting law that a person can have a cup of wine or grape juice, a full cup. If a person drinks down a cup of wine or grape juice, that's enough. He could be yotzei the kiddush with that. V'yesh machlok in revit zot chutz miyayin hakiddush or yochlim gam yotzei im shtiyot kos hakiddush. So there's a machlok in here. It's doubtful. We don't know whether that cup of grape juice or cup of wine that you can drink instead of the bread, instead of the cake, if that's talking about the wine that you had in the kiddush cup that you drank for the kiddush, or you have to take a separate cup of wine, and that will be instead of your cake, you drink down another cup of wine or grape juice, and that will be instead of your cake. So the minhag that I've seen is the second way, that if a person wants to make the kiddush and not eat, he'll drink a cup of grape juice or wine. So that's a separate cup. So first you would make your kiddush. Whoever's making the kiddush, yotzei kiddush. Once you yotzei kiddush, you can pour yourself another cup, a revit, let's say the 3.8 ounces, a cup of wine or grape juice, and you can drink that as your meal, so call it, for the kiddush b'makom seudah. And there's another doubt, there's another question which is argued amongst the rabbis, whether this can be done for the nighttime Suda or only the daytime. We know this can be done during the daytime Suda, that you can take another additional cup of wine to be Yotze your Kiddush b'makom seudah, but we don't know if you can do that at nighttime, so at nighttime it would be best to refrain and to make sure you have the bread or mizonot, kizait of bread or mizonot when it comes to the nighttime Kiddush. Let's go over this seif. So these are the laws of making Kiddush at the same place and the same time as the meal. And we said the phrase is called Ein Kiddush Ela B'makom Seudah. There is no Kiddush only in a place of a meal. So we said a person is not Yotze, did not fulfill their obligation of Kiddush if we don't eat a meal immediately after following the Kiddush. It would be like as if he did not make Kiddush at all, even though you heard the Kiddush in Beit Knesset, even if you tasted from the grape juice or you tasted from the wine. If you did not have a meal immediately after, so then it's not called Kiddush, and the person, you would still need to make another Kiddush because you would not be Yotze the Kiddush. We said the meal has to be in the same place where you made or heard the Kiddush. It has to be the same immediately after. It also has to be the same place. You have to be able to see the place where you made the Kiddush, or be standing there when you have your meal. We said we should not delay or interrupt, get involved in anything else. It's especially Beit Knesset. You start socializing, you start talking to people after you have your Kiddush. You taste your Kiddush, the Rav makes Kiddush. After Beit Knesset, every people start socializing, getting involved in different things. In the meantime, time is going by. This is precious time that's going by, because this time is going to tie the meal to the Kiddush. And if too much time goes by, or you get involved in different things, so then the meal won't be combined with the Kiddush, and you won't have any mitzvah. You won't know Kiddush and the Seudah would be eaten without Kiddush. Very problematic. So a person should be very careful with this mitzvah, because you could lose the whole Kiddush. You lose these mitzvot of the Shabbat, and there are other serious problems eating before Kiddush. We're going to see later a person is not allowed to eat before Kiddush. So if we're not Yotze the obligation, because we're not fulfilling these laws, so then it's considered that a person would be like eating without making Kiddush, which is a very serious prohibition. If someone will not be able to have the meal in the same place as their Kiddush, for example, we said a woman that heard the Kiddush in the Sukkah, and she wants to eat in the house, so we said they should make a she'elah, they should ask the rabbi what they should do in those cases. How much do we need to eat? We said we have to have a meal. How much do we need to eat? So we said that is kizait. Kizait is like the amount of an olive. Again, these are the olives, the olden day olives, which is about the size of our eggs, which is about 30 grams of bread or mizonot, bread or cake. And like we said, it's about a slice of bread or a nice piece of cake. Also, we said by drinking a revit of wine or grape juice, a separate revit, a separate cup of grape juice or wine, you can also be yotze. And in that case, you would not have to have your mizonot, because you're taking a separate cup of wine, and you're going to use that cup of wine as it's considered like a meal in itself. There's a question, we said whether it's talking about the Kiddush itself or it's a separate cup, we take a separate cup of wine, and we said we shouldn't do this at the nighttime Seudah, we should only use that heter to have Kiddush b'makom Seudah, to use a second cup of wine, we should only use that for the daytime Kiddush and not at nighttime. The next seif Vav, this will be the last seif we're learning for today. Kiddush Hayom. These are the laws of the daytime Kiddush. כמו שיש חיוב לקדש בלילה, גם ביום יש חיוב לקדש. וקודם האכילה. Just like everybody knows, just like we know that there's a mitzvah, that at nighttime comes Shabbat, we come home from Beit Knesset, we have a mitzvah right away to make the Kiddush, to sanctify the holiness of the Shabbat day through making the Kiddush. The same thing in the morning, the Shabbat daytime, we also have an obligation to make Kiddush. V'kodem ha'achila, and before we eat. Before a person can eat any food, we have to make the Kiddush before we're allowed to eat any food. V'av sheKiddush hayom v'adai ein oleh ela midrabanan, Mikol makom shaveh b'chol dinav l'kiddush halayla. Person's going to say, but the kiddush of the daytime is only d'Rabbanan. Be careful when we say only d'Rabbanan, because the d'Rabbanan have the same level, the same importance of the d'oraita, like we learned before. The Torah said, "Vasu mishmeret lemishmarti," that the Torah itself tells the rabbis that they should make more law. We should make laws and institute Torah that should be kayam, that the Torah should go for the generations. And so, this mitzvah of daytime kiddush is d'Rabbanan. So you would think that it would be different. There would be different laws would apply. That would be very different from the kiddush halayla. The kiddush halayla is d'oraita. It's Minat Torah. The Torah said, Zachor et Yom HaShabbat lekadsho, that we have to remember the Shabbat and sanctify the Shabbat. You can do that one time. One time a person says on Shabbat, he says Shabbat Shalom. That can also be Yotzei Kiddush, but we don't be Yotzei Kiddush. We make it on the cup. Person has to do it one time, Minat Torah. But the Rabbanan, we also have it in the daytime. They say do it all over again in the daytime in Shabbat by day. V'hainu, shekol dinei kos, shtiya, kiddush b'makom seuda, ve'isur ti'ima, kodem ha-kiddush, ha'ne'amarim b'kiddush halayla, noagim gam ken kiddush hayom. So that means that all of the laws that we just learned, of the laws of the cup, the laws of the drinking, the laws of that the kiddush has to be at the same place and the same time as the meal, and the fact that you're not allowed to eat or drink before the kiddush, all the laws that we said previously that we just learned, those were talking about the kiddush halayla, the kiddush of the nighttime. All that same stuff applies for the kiddush hayom, for the daytime kiddush. So there's one difference. The difference would be if somebody does not have wine. Somebody does not have wine or grape juice, or they can't drink. It's too difficult for them to drink the required amount of wine or grape juice. So here there would be a difference from the nighttime to the day. So just even though we just finished learning above that in that case a person would make kiddush on bread, and he would not make kiddush on other liquids. Shoneh kiddush shel yom. The daytime kiddush is different. In that case, in the daytime, if a person does not have wine or grape juice, or it's too difficult for them to drink wine or grape juice, they would not make kiddush on bread. They would instead make kiddush on what's called chamar medina. Chamar medina, chamar medina is other commonly drank beverages that are commonly drank in that place. So, like tea, whiskey, etc. And it changes according to the place. But we can make kiddush on whiskey. If a person needs for tea or these other liquids, you can ask a rabbi, which other liquids can you make the kiddush on? But in the daytime, we would not make kiddush on bread. Instead, we would use these other types of drinks, other commonly drank drinks. Why? She'ikar kiddush hayom hu amirat borei pira gefen, o she'akol el chamar, o she'hakol el chamar medina. What is the whole kiddush of the daytime? Is only the bracha. Everything we say in the daytime kiddush, shamru b'nei Yisrael Shabbat, lishmor lasot Shabbat, all of those things that we say before the Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Borei Pri HaGafen, all those are extra. The whole kiddush in daytime kiddush is called kiddush rabbah, the great kiddush. Why is it called the great kiddush? Because it's a lashon sagina, or we're saying in a positive language that it's a tiny kiddush. There's nothing in the kiddush. It's only the blessing itself. Only the Borei Pri HaGafen, the Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Borei Pri HaGafen. That is the entire kiddush by daytime. So what would be if he was making on bread? So he would wash his hands and he would make hamotzi lachem min haaretz on the bread, and no one sees any kiddush. You would not know that he made kiddush. You would say the person did not make the kiddush. They don't know that he has in mind to make the kiddush on bread. But at nighttime it's very obvious that he's making the kiddush, because at nighttime we start with Yom HaShishi Vayichulu Hashamayim Va'aretz V'chol Tzva'am, and we say the whole kiddush, and that is all part of the kiddush. So then when he ends off by nighttime, if he ends off with the bread, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. It's perfectly clear that he's making the kiddush, but in the daytime that would be a problem. Nobody would know. It would not be recognizable that he's making the kiddush. Let's just summarize this last seif. So these are the laws of the daytime kiddush, kiddush hayom. So we said, just like there's a mitzvah to make kiddush at night, we're also obligated to make kiddush during the Shabbat day. And the same laws apply, and we do everything all over again in the daytime. Same as night, we cannot eat anything before the daytime kiddush. You have to make kiddush before eating anything. Even though the daytime kiddush is d'Rabbanan, we nevertheless, all the laws are the same as the nighttime kiddush. The laws of the kos kiddush that we learned, including the cup itself, the amount that a person has to drink, the eating in the same place as the kiddush, and not eating anything before kiddush, all apply to the daytime kiddush as well. We said there's one exception though, that if a person doesn't have wine or can't drink wine or grape juice, then if it was nighttime, we would say you should make the kiddush on bread. And in the daytime, we say you should make the kiddush on something else. You could take chamar medina. Chamar medina, that's beverages that are commonly drank in his place, in the place that he lives, like whiskey or tea, etc. And we said the reason for that is very clear, that if a person makes kiddush on bread during the day, it's not obvious that he's making kiddush, because the whole kiddush is the blessing that he makes on the Brei Pri Hagafen or on the Chamar Medina. We're going to stop here. The next shiur will be discussing the laws of eating or drinking before kiddush, if somebody has to, in a case a person has to eat or drink before kiddush, and the laws of lechem mishnah, of taking the 2 chalot that we make, the motzi lechem, the 2 challah breads of Shabbat. Thanks again for watching and learning with our kollel, and we hope to see you all again next time. Thank you very much.